What's the most obscure Pokemon game you can think of? Maybe it's Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, or Pokemon XD for the GameCube, Hey You Pikachu, Pokemon Rumble, Pokemon Conquest, Pokemon Puzzle Challenge. Unfortunately, I'm not here to talk about any of those games, because I'm here to talk about the Pokemon trading card game. No, not the extremely popular physical card game. I'm talking about the Game Boy Color Pokemon card game that came out in the year 2000. Yeah, technically it's a glorified emulator to teach people how to play, but it's got a unique story about a duelist setting out to collect medals and defeat all 8 club leaders so that they can face the 4 Grandmasters and become... Okay, it's pretty much every Pokemon game you've ever played, but it does have its own take on the format. For example, when you defeat another person, you get 2 packs of Pokemon cards that you can use to power up your deck for the stronger challenges ahead. But what if I didn't do that? What if I beat the entire game with the base deck? Was it even possible? I don't know. I just thought it'd be a fun challenge. See, I've been playing card games for most of my life, and I'm pretty confident in my ability to see plays that newer players might not think of. So with this background and my Pokemon knowledge, let's start the story. The story starts with us at Dr. Mason's lab, and he wants to teach us how to play the Pokemon card game. After telling him that we don't need any help with the rules, he has me play the tutorial game with his assistant Sam. Pretty basic stuff: equip energies to attack, how to evolve Pokemon, playing cards by reading them, and taking prizes to win the game. After beating Sam, we're given the option for 3 different decks. That's right, the classic choice between Bulbasaur, Squirtle, or Charmander. And they all have friends. But the real decision is, do I want Charizard, Blastoise, or Venusaur? See, all 3 of these Pokemon have Pokepowers that work with their respective decks. And since I'm not going to be able to change the deck, I need to choose the best one for this challenge. See, Charizard has the ability to change all energies attached to him to fire energies to use his big attack, while Blastoise allows you to place as many water energies onto your water Pokemon as you have in your hand. And finally, Venusaur is able to move grass energies around the playing field as often as you like. While each of these strategies had its own merits, I ended up picking up Squirtle and friends, because I felt building multiple Pokemon on board was the best way to take on this challenge. So with our deck in hand, Dr. Mason tells us to go challenge the different clubs, get new cards, and build new decks. But who needs a new deck when I got Squirtle and friends? Now, one of the cool features about this game is that it's completely open world, and you can challenge any club in the order you want. If only it didn't take 23 years for Game Freak to do this with their main series games. So I walked into the closest club and ended up running into Ronald, the rival of the game. Basically, Ronald is boasting about getting the fighting medal, and if he keeps it up that he's gonna get the legendary Pokemon cards. But when I walk in, he starts acting up, like, "There's no way you can do it. You might as well give up." Bro, I haven't even played against anyone. How are you gonna tell me I'm bad? Then he leaves laughing in all caps. Bruh. If I had to guess, Ronald probably runs a Mr. Mime deck, because he's a clown if he thinks that he's gonna get these legendary cards. But with Ronald gone, we talk to Mitch, the master of the fighting club, and basically he tells us to kick rocks, because if we want to face him, we're gonna have to take his 3 pupils on that are hidden in the other clubs. So with that information, I head to the Lightning Club. The very first person I run into is this girl named Jennifer, and she challenges us to a battle with her all Pikachu deck. Now, Jennifer may appear to be an innocent girl with a cute Pokemon deck, but it's all a ruse. Jennifer is actually an evil raid boss that cost me over an hour of my life. See, my opening hand was all water Pokemon, which are weak to electric Pokemon, so every attack that our Pikachus do deal double damage. Not only that, but she won the coin flip to go first, and in this game, you can attack right away. So she was able to hit my Squirtle for half of its health before I even got to play the game. Let me save you the trouble, because she beat me so badly that I wasn't even able to take a single prize card. Now, don't think I don't have a strategy going into the next battle, because just like how my water Pokemon are weak against her electric Pokemon, Jennifer's Pikachus are weak to fighting Pokemon. So all I need to do is get a game where I have Machop, Hitmonchan, or Geodude, and I'm going to be the one sweeping her. Unfortunately, the next game I didn't find those Pokemon, but I did find Kadabra, and he was putting in the work. He was able to take 3 of the 4 prize cards, and right before I could take the last one, she evolved her Pikachu into Raichu and killed my Kadabra. Yeah? What would Ash think about that, you Pikachu-loving poser? Luckily, the next game I opened 2 Geodudes with the energy to use them. The move does require some luck, because I can only deal damage for every heads that I get on the coin flip. Fortunately for me, I hit 2 heads in a row, so I should be doing... Did that just say 0 damage? Okay, so apparently flying and surfing Pikachu resist fighting moves, so there goes that plan. Maybe Ronald was right and I should just go home. Or maybe I should just get better cards in my deck. If the very first trainer is going to give me this much trouble, maybe I should make this a playthrough where I do a challenge run to appease to the YouTube algorithm. No, I set this challenge for myself and I'm going to see it the whole way through. Let's run it back. I start the game with Geodude and won the coin flip to go first. Using Pokeball, I was able to get a heads and search my deck for Rattata. I put it to my bench and started attaching energies to it. I played my Professor Oak next, which gave me a fresh 7 cards in hand. With this new hand, I found Scoop Up and I used it to put my Geodude back in my hand and replace it with my Rattata. After putting an Abra onto my bench, I attacked for 20 on the Flying Pikachu. Jennifer started her turn by playing Bill and drawing 2 cards. She then put an Electric Energy onto her bench Flying Pikachu and ended the turn. I drew a Water Energy for turn and started powering up my Abra on the bench. Kadabra is one of my best Pokemon in this matchup, so I just want to make sure that it's all set up just in case I draw it. With that, I attack Flying Pikachu for the knockout. This is the first time I was able to take the first prize, and things are looking up. Jennifer promotes her other Flying Pikachu, attaches an energy, and goes for a Thunder Shock. She ends up missing her coin flip, so I don't get paralyzed. Rattata takes 10 damage, and I go to my turn. I continue to build Abra, and I use Bill to draw 2 cards. I got a Potion and a Water Energy. Rattata hits for another 20, and Jenny starts her turn with her own Bill. She places a Water Energy on her bench Surfing Pikachu and goes for another Thunder Shock. Once again, she misses her flip, and I remain unparalyzed. I draw a Seal for turn and use my Potion to heal 20 damage from Rattata. With the Water Energy from Bill, I was able to fully build my Abra. Another bite takes down her Pikachu, and I'm up 2 prizes. With no damage on my field and an Abra waiting on standby, this is looking to be the winning game. But Jennifer answers back with a Surfing Pikachu and takes out my Rattata. I decide to put Abra in the active because it has a free retreat cost. I end up drawing another Rattata and throw it on the bench. I suit it up with an energy, but it's not worth putting in the active since Surfing Pikachu will just knock it out on the following turn. So I decide to put Seal into the active as a sacrifice. On Jennifer's turn, she puts an energy to her bench and attacks Seal for 60 damage, knocking it out. I draw Item Finder for the turn. This card lets me reuse items in my discard for the cost of 2 cards in my hand, but that's an easy cost to pay when I'm getting Professor Oak. I use Professor Oak, and in my fresh 7, I have a Wartortle and a Starmie. They helped by evolving some of my bench Pokemon, but they didn't solve the problem. I retreated into Geodude since it would be able to survive 1 attack. But then Jenny does something unexpected and switches into a 3rd Flying Pikachu. She uses Thunderbolt and finally hits her coin flip. So Geodude is now paralyzed, meaning it can't attack or retreat on my turn. But it's not a big deal, because I have Switch in my hand, and it overrules the paralyzation. I use Switch to promote Rattata and use Bite for the 5th time on the 3rd Flying Pikachu. Jennifer uses her turn just to Thunderbolt back and misses her coin flip. This guarantees the knockout on the next turn with Bite, but Surfing Pikachu comes back in, and with the board I have now, it's looking like it's game over. I wait for her to use Surf and take out my only useful attacker, but then she passes. Jennifer didn't have the energies to attack, and in a twist of fate, I draw Kadabra from the top of my deck. I evolve Abra, retreat Rattata, and attack Surfing Pikachu for exactly 50 damage with Super Psy, taking the last prize and winning the game. I've won. I've beaten my first trainer, and it only took me an hour and a half. And with that, I received 2 packs of cards that I will absolutely not be using. After beating the true Electric Master, all the other battles were light work. Nicholas lost after I beat his Magnemite because he had no other Pokemon, and the same thing happened to the last member, Brandon. What seemed like an impossible challenge was actually turning out to be an enjoyable experience. Now all I needed to do was face off against Isaac, the Electric Club Master. And just look how cool he is with those shades. I wish I could pretend and tell you that I struggled with Isaac's team, but it was kind of a letdown. My Machop was able to knock out Electabuzz, take his Magnemite's explosion, and knock out another Magnemite and Electabuzz. Geodude took out Tauros and Voltorb, and Raticate took out his last Magnemite. A first try victory for my first medal. Fresh off a victory, I walked into the Rock Club and was able to fight Gene the Rock Master right away, and Gene's Doug Trio destroyed me. Its Slash Attack was able to knock out most of my Pokemon with 1 hit, and all the rest with a second. I lost to Gene over and over again, but on my 5th attempt, I got to a board state where Gene had his Onix on the field, and I had my Haunter. Onix would only use Harden, which doesn't do any damage. That, combined with my Haunter's Hypnosis, I was able to waste enough time to have Gene run out of cards. This is called decking, and once you can't draw a card, you lose the game. Was it a cheap way to win? Sure, but we take those. I don't think I was going to be able to beat Gene any other way. I claim my 2nd medal, and on my way out to leave, I get stopped by the walking McDouble himself, Ronald, who greets me with the, "So you won your 2nd medal? You must have been really lucky." Like, fair enough. I did get super lucky, but he doesn't know that. Anyway, Ronald challenges me to a battle, and I lost, okay? It's not important. Winning doesn't move the story along at all, and all I missed out was on a card that I couldn't use anyways. Some would say it was optimal that I lost quickly to continue the grind for the medals. But did he really have to leave the room, shout laughing again? After having what I had left of my self-respect diminished, I decided to recuperate it by challenging the Fire Club because I have a water deck. I talked to Ken, the master of the Fire Club, and he let me know that if I wanted to fight him, I'd need to have more cards. Turns out, Ken doesn't play ball for less than 300 cards. So I left to the Science Club and figured I'd come back to fight Ken later. Upon entering, I saw the Science Club master was blocked off by this guy named Joseph. He tells us that Rick is in the middle of an experiment. Yes, you heard me right. The Science Master's name is Rick. So I faced Joseph, and with his Fearow, he was able to sweep my whole field. During the second game, he brings out Flying Pikachu and I start getting flashbacks, praying that this isn't going to be a repeat of Jennifer. But in a way it kinda was, because my Rattata popped those balloons and added another Flying Pikachu to its body count. With Joseph out of the way, I moved in to battle Rick. My opening was pretty average, and when the field opens, you can see Staryu on my side and Mewtwo on Rick's. Are you kidding me? Luckily for me, Rick decides to set up his Grimer instead, giving me time to chip away at Mewtwo until it falls. Could you imagine if in the first Pokemon movie, when Mewtwo captures all the trainers and explains his plan to eradicate all humans and Pokemon, if Misty was like, not gonna happen, and threw her Staryu like a shuriken and the movie just ended? I'd watch it. After defeating one of the strongest Pokemon to ever live, Grimer takes out Staryu with a nasty goo attack. I clap back with a bite from Eradicate, and Rick sends in another Grimer to keep this back and forth going. My Abra finished off the second Grimer, and Rick promotes a third Grimer. But unfortunately for Rick, I've been building Dugong on my bench, and I was able to get my last water energy I needed to power him up. Now, with a Pokemon that can hit for 50 damage, I was looking to take this game. That was until Rick played another Mewtwo. Two Mewtwo's! Luckily, Rick had to use his turn to power up his Mewtwo, so I was able to hit first and out-damage with 2 Aurora Beams. Rick's last Pokemon was Coughing, and Dugong was able to take it out with 1 attack. I received my well-earned Science Medal and head out to the Grass Club, where the Club Master was nowhere in sight. One of the members, Heather, told me by defeating her and the other 2 members, they would tell me where she went. Her deck was pretty interesting, with Vaporeon, Ditto, and Porygon, but Lapras was able to help us take the victory. Next was Christine, who gave us a little trouble since her basic Pokemon had so much health compared to ours. Like, look at Lickitung's health compared to Squirtle's. I got very close to winning, then this happened. But on my third attempt, I was able to use Lapras and Seaking to sneak a victory. Not seeing a third member, I went out to the entrance and found Michael, who was a member of the fighting club, and he was pretty upset that he couldn't beat any of these girl bosses in the club. In a rage of toxic masculinity, he picked a fight with me. Funny enough, we both started Hitmonchan, but fortunately for me, I was able to swing harder and take out not only Hitmonchan, but his 2 Hitmonlees, and I ended the battle with Abra. Losing to me caused Michael to go back to the fighting club, so I continued looking for the third member, but I just decided not to read Brittany's text and left to go to the water club. This club was basically the same as the science club. A member was blocking my path to the club master, except unlike Joseph blocking me from Rick because he's working, Joshua is blocking us because he doesn't want us to wake up his queen, Amy. Also, I need to earn the right to battle him by defeating Sarah and Amanda. It took me a few tries to beat Sarah, but once I was able to get my Machop out to do super effective against her normal types, it was a pretty easy victory. Sarah just got rolled by Machoke, and just like that, it was time to face off against Joshua. His deck was pretty close to mine. He was using Dugong and Lapras, but my Lapras was fully built in the end, so I claimed the win. Since I won, Joshua was forced to wake Amy. After asking her to let him continue moderating her Discord, Amy got pretty upset, and all of a sudden the battle for the water medal was underway. Her deck was pretty similar to mine using Wartortle, Lapras, and Seaking. However, I was able to get out Dugong and apply pressure faster than she could build her board. Honestly, Dugong has become one of my favorite Pokemon in this deck, next to Kadabra and Rattata at this point. With the water medal in hand, I went back to beat Brittany, totally on my own volition and not with an online guide. Nikki was at Ishihara's house. Like Ishihara, the CEO of the Pokemon Company? I don't know what kind of pull these gardeners have to be so chummy with the big dog, but my suspicions grew even greater when I saw Nikki there by herself. And to make it stranger, she left to go back to the grass club as soon as I started talking to her. Putting all my suspicions aside, I head back to the club and start my battle with Nikki. I lost the coin flip and she went first. She started by playing Pot of Greed, drawing 2 cards from her dueling deck, and attacked my Abra with her Oddish. We ended up trading blows until I was forced to switch out. I went out into Geodude, but quickly got humbled because I missed my attack and had a super effective Stun Spore come back at me. A few more turns went by and Geodude was knocked out. I opted to use my Ghastly and its Sleeping Gas to buy me some time while I built a board. But before I could even find anything worth mentioning, Nikki was able to get her Vileplume. This forced me to use a secret method that I had for taking out strong Pokemon. See, Ghastly's first attack is Sleeping Gas, which has a chance for the opponent's Pokemon to go to sleep, but its other move is Destiny Bond. With the low cost of discarding an energy off a Ghastly, the next turn, if Ghastly's to get knocked out, it'll take the opponent's Pokemon with him. Normally a move like this would just buy time, since your opponent can always choose to not attack and just pass the turn. But this is 2000s AI we're talking about, and hope that this gambit allows me to get back into the game. And it looks like Nikki took the bait. There's only one problem. Vileplume's move is luck based, and if Nikki flips 3 tails in a row, it won't deal any damage, and I don't have another Psychic Energy to use Destiny Bond in the next turn. Luckily she lands 2 heads and both Pokemon fall. I'm still in a tough spot, but at least I'm clawing my way back, is what I'd say if she didn't have Bulbasaur built to use Leech Seed to heal all damage that I could deal with my Pokemon. After losing both my Abras and Squirtle to this beast of a Bulbasaur, I knew the game was over. Starting game number 2, I was able to win the coin flip and go first. This wouldn't matter though if I couldn't win the Pokeball coin flip to find a Pokemon that could use the energies that I had in my hand. Luckily for me, I was able to win the coin flip and go find Machop in my deck. I got off a low kick and passed it to Nikki. Nikki was able to get a Stun Spore off and paralyze my Machop, so my next turn was just an energy attachment. Nikki evolved to Gloom and plays Professor Oak to get a fresh hand. She then poisons my Machop, dealing 10 damage in between turns. Luckily I saved my Machoke, because when you evolve a Pokemon, all special statuses get removed. I hit Gloom with a more powerful attack to only get re-paralyzed on the following turn. Knowing Machoke isn't going to be around much longer, I start building an Abra and take out Gloom. Nikki puts up an Execute and evolves her Bulbasaur on the bench to Venusaur. She moves all of her energies on the field to her Execute to attack, leaving Machoke at 20 health. She passes, and the poison leaves Machoke at 10 health. I decide to use Machoke's second attack, Submission, to take out the Execute and himself and reset the field. I send up my Ghastly, and she sends up her Venusaur. Waiting to see what she does next, she just plays another Execute and passes her turn. I take my turn, putting an energy on Kadabra and send it back to her. She draws a grass energy and passes. Off the top of my deck, I draw another psychic energy, and now Kadabra is online. I start applying pressure by retreating into Kadabra and smacking Venusaur for 50 damage. And with Nikki's turn only being a potion on her Venusaur, I knew she was out of gas. Finally, Kadabra got revenge for the last time it went up against Venusaur. At this point, Nikki tried to fight back with a Leech Seed, but it was too late. She was out of energy and out of time. Kadabra claimed the remaining prize cards, and we won our 5th medal. Off of a well-earned medal, I walked to the entrance to be greeted by Ego Incarnate himself, Ronald. Off rip, he hits me with the, "Have you gotten any better? I've got 6 medals opposed to your 5. And when he asked to battle, of course I declined it, because winning gets me nothing. I totally challenged him in hopes to damage his ego and then ended up losing anyway. And of course he tells me, "You will never get the legendary cards," and leaves the room, laughing in all caps. After lowering my self-esteem once again, I figured I'd have enough cards to battle Ken in the Fire Club. And you wouldn't believe it, I won, because I have water deck. I really needed that. With 6 medals, I finally decided to look for the Fighting Club pupils, and I found Chris in the Rock Club and beat him with my Blastoise. After looking around some more, I made my way to the Psychic Club. Mori, the master of the club, was down to battle, so let's do it. He started with his wall, Kangaskhan, and drew so many extra cards from its attack. The whole time, all I could do was chip away at its health, and just before I knock it out, he uses Scoop Up and puts a Kadabra onto the field. It one-shots my Staryu. I answer back with a bite from a Rattata, but he ends up gusting out my Abra to try to cut me off from my evolution routes. I put Rattata back out and bite again. Kadabra hits Rattata with a Super Psy, which normally does 50 damage, but Rattata resists it, only taking 20. I finish off Kadabra just to be met with the wall again. I go back to chipping away at Kangaskhan until he knocks out my Rattata with a Comet Punch. This puts me in a bad spot. None of my Pokemon can really damage Kangaskhan because of his resistance, and to make it worse, Mori scoops it up again, denying me another prize card. This is looking really bad. He replaces his unkillable Kangaskhan with Abra and hits my Abra for super effective damage. He also gets the Paralyzation paralyzation, so I guess no attacking or retreating this turn. This is it. If I lose this Abra, I have no chance of winning this game. I start my turn, draw my card, and get Kadabra off the top. I instantly evolve Abra, curing its paralyzation, and start attacking. I Super Saiyan Abra for the most damage I've been able to pull off this entire game. Mori brought out his Mr. Mime, and I'm looking to start sweeping. I hit him with another Super Saiyan, and 0 damage. So Mr. Mime's ability says that he can't be damaged unless the attack does 30 or less. I'm going to have to make a detour by sending in my Eradicate and attacking twice to knock out the Mr. Mime, is what I would have said if he didn't just switch Mr. Mime out for him. I just can't get rid of this guy. After more turns of Mori drawing cards, I was finally able to knock out Kangaskhan with my War Turtle. Mr. Mime showed up again, and once more Eradicate came in to finish it off. Mori put an Abra up next and evolved it to Kadabra, but unfortunately it was an energy short of attacking. I used this opportunity to retreat into my own Kadabra and took Mori's before it could become a problem. Mori promoted yet another Kangaskhan to wall me off. I chipped away at it, and after a few turns I was finally able to retreat into War Turtle and take the knockout for game. 7 medals. I have 7 of the 8 medals I need. All I need to do now is beat the Fighting Club Master, and it's on to the champions. But first, we need to find the last pupil. Now, I don't want to admit how long it took me to find this last member, but after a few sparks of intuition, I found Brittany in the Fire Club. Dugong did his thing, and we're off to claim our last medal. It's a little funny to me that Mitch was the first person that we talked to at the beginning of the playthrough, and now he's the final club master that we need to fight. And I'd love to say the battle was memorable, but Lapras made quick work of Mitch's team. I received the last medal and made my way over to the Pokédome. After showing a mysterious voice my earnings, I was led into the final room. Rod, the leader of the Grandmasters, greeted me. He introduced me to Grandmaster Courtney, the Fire Queen, Grandmaster of Lightning, Thunder Steve, and Grandmaster of Ice, Gentlemanly Jack. Rod told me that if I was able to beat all of them, I would have earned the right to the legendary Pokemon cards. I took my seat at the table, and Courtney walked up and sat across from me. This was it. We're playing in the big leagues now. When I tell you that the first game was a beating, it's no exaggeration. From the start of battle, Courtney's Moltres knocked out every single Pokemon I could put on the active spot. And when I was finally able to knock it out, she put out a new Moltres and took her remaining prize cards. Not only that, but when the battle was over, I was kicked out of the Grand Hall. Sure, I was able to re-enter and try again, but does this mean that I need to defeat all 4 members of the Grandmasters without losing a single time? Is that even possible with the deck I'm using? I didn't have time to think about that kind of stuff. I re-entered, sat down, and started my run back with Courtney. I put Abra into the active to soak up some damage just in case Courtney won the coin toss. That way Staryu could come out and do big damage against her fire Pokemon. She did end up winning the coin flip, but didn't attack turn 1. I continued with my plan and sent out Staryu and attacked Growlithe for 40 damage. She hit me back for 20, but I finished Growlithe off on the next turn. She promotes her Moltres, which is scary, but she hasn't had the time to build it. As I attack it, I learned the legendary cards that I'm trying to get my hands on have no weakness. So instead of being a 2-turn knockout like I had hoped, I was going to have to take multiple turns chipping away at Moltres. So that's what I did. All the while building a seal on my bench, hoping to get Dugong. Turns passed, and Courtney was able to build her Moltres up enough to attack with her 4 energy attack Dive Bomb. This move is strong enough to take out almost every Pokemon in my deck, but she has to win a coin flip to do it. And luckily for me, she missed it, allowing Staryu to finish off the legendary bird and claim the second prize. My next turtle was going to be Magmar, but it looked like Courtney used all of her energy building Moltres, so she just sent it back. I smacked Magmar for 40 damage, ready to start earning prizes fast, when Courtney switches into another Moltres. She passes, hoping to get more time to build her board. I draw Bill for the turn, and off that get Kadabra, which is huge because I've also been building Abra along with my seal, just in case one of the evolutions show up. Not only that, but I have Item Finder in my hand, so I grab back Bill and I find Pokeball. I even won the coin flip, allowing me to go get Dugong. Now with 2 evolved Pokemon, I'm feeling confident of my chances of winning this. I send Kadabra to the active and shoot Moltres for half of its health. Courtney realizes that Moltres isn't worth saving and starts powering up her bench and ships it back to me. I finish off Moltres and grab my 3rd prize. Magmar returns to her side, but it looks like she's out of gas and she sends it back. Another Super Sai finishes off Magmar for my 4th prize, and then Vulpix for her 5th. Courtney does find her other Moltres and fills her hand with energy, but unfortunately it's a little too late. So with the last Super Sai, I claim my first victory against the Grandmasters. My next opponent is Steve, but luckily they asked me if I'd want to prepare my deck for the battle, giving me the opportunity to save the game. This was huge, because now I can just reset instead of having to beat each one of them in a row, but I still need to beat them. Steve was going to be a hard matchup for me, since most of my deck was weak to electric Pokemon. I was going to need to depend on the other half of my mons to pull through. And sure, his Zapdos flexed its 100 damage move for the victory the first time, but my plan went into action in the second game. I was able to get Hitmonchan with a fighting energy in my opening hand, and with me winning the coin flip, I was able to do some serious damage to Steve's Electabuzz before he could even start. Steve tried to slow down the punches by going for a paralyzed attack, but ended up missing his coin flip. With a second attack, Electabuzz went down, and I got my first prize. Steve promoted his Eevee and tried to tail whip Hitmonchan so that I couldn't attack the next turn, but once again missed its coin flip. With Hitmonchan fully powered up, I sent a special punch out and hit it for 80 damage. Ready for a long battle, the decision screen popped up, and I beat Steve. He ran out of Pokemon. My Hitmonchan was just too fast for him. That's 2 Grandmasters down and 2 to go. So after a quick save, I started my match against Jack. Obviously there's no ice types in the game, so it was gonna be a battle to see who had the stronger water deck. I win the coin flip and go first, and stare down an opposing Lapras. Luckily I had Bill Item Finder in my hand, so I was able to dig for some answers. Off the first bill I got double water energy, not what I'm looking for. And to make matters worse, the second bill gave me a third water energy and a Goldeen. So I ended up hitting Lapras for a measly 10 damage and sent it over. He hits me back for 10 damage and sends the turn to me. I draw another energy and stare at my grip of nothing, but I have to play it out. I power up my Goldeen and I hit Lapras for another 10, this time winning the coin flip so I can paralyze it. This limits Jack to just sending the turn back to me. I draw another stupid energy, and like Groundhog Day, I attach another energy, deal 10, and win another coin flip. Jack attaches a water energy to Lapras, and now I can one-shot my Squirtle if I miss my coin flip. It goes back to me, and my own personal hell continues. Another energy, but this time, I lose my coin flip. With this opportunity, Jack takes out my Squirtle, and all I'm left with is Abra and Goldeen. Expecting another energy, I draw from the top of my deck, and I'm given a symbol of hope. Seeking. Finally, I have a Pokemon that does more than 10 damage. I evolve Goldeen and swing for 30. This leaves Lapras at 10, but at least I have a chance. Jack tries to make a play by scooping up Articuno and replaying it to get a paralyzation, but misses the flip. He ends up hitting me for 30 and passing it back. I once again draw an energy, but are able to knock out Lapras. But to my dismay, another Lapras is placed into the active. Jack decides to use Confuse Ray instead of a 2-hit confirmed water gun and misses the flip. I draw a potion off the top and quickly heal Seeking. The missed Confuse Ray combined with the potion allows me to outdamage the second Lapras. Also, the prize card that I got off the first Lapras was a Lapras of my own, so I play it and start suiting it up for later. After my attack, Jack went to go for another Confuse Ray and got the flip. This is really scary. It makes it so every time I attack or retreat, I have the chance to do 20 damage to myself, but I have to keep attacking to win. I go for the attack and I get the flip. Content with the confusion, Jack hits me with a water gun and puts Seeking to 20. I have the choice to attack with Seeking and potentially get knocked out due to confusion, or I can switch to Lapras and have the chance to be knocked out but still get some damage off. I decide to go for the risky play and just attack, and I miss my coin flip, knocking out my Seeking and placing Abra to the active to be sacrificed. It turned out Jack didn't have another water energy to KO my Abra and decided to try to confuse it, but he missed the flip. Since Abra was able to survive, I switched him into Lapras and picked up a kill with water gun. Jack places a third Lapras, scoops up Articuno, and puts Chansey on the bench in its spot. Still lacking on energies, he attacks for water gun, but only does 10. Unlike Jack, I have plenty of energies, but unfortunately they're the wrong ones. But my Lapras is attacking for 20, while his is only attacking for 10. A turn goes by of water guns, and I draw it. Professor Oak. I quickly get rid of my hand for a new one. This one gives me Kadabra and the water energy to power up Lapras. I use water gun for 30 and put Jack's Lapras dead to one more water gun. He desperately tries to use his Articuno to paralyze my Lapras, but misses the coin flip for a third time. I finish off Lapras, and Jack promotes his Seal. But when he hits me for only 10 damage, it seems like Jack is out of options, and I'm in the driver's seat. A few water guns take down Seal, and Jack promotes his Chansey. Turns out I'm the lucky one though, because I drew Hitmonchan for my prizes and a fighting energy for the turn. I use Switch to get Hitmonchan into the active and chunk Chansey for 40. Not wanting to give up, Jack switches into Articuno, but I retreat into Kadabra to get a 2-turn kill with Super Psy. At this point, the game is finished. I swap into Hitmonchan and take my last prize, claiming victory over the Grandmaster. But now it was time for the final challenge. I have to take on Rod, the leader of the Grandmasters, and my opening hand was not very good. I put Goldeen into the active and Meowth on my bench. Fortunately enough, it looks like Rob's turn wasn't much better since he started with Magikarp. I won the coin flip and started swinging for 10. Magikarp's attack does 10 damage for every damage counter on it, so it was going to be a race of the fishes. Luckily, Goldeen came out on top, but Rod just replaced it with another Magikarp and knocked it out, and I had to promote Meowth. I was able to find Squirtle and start powering it up while attacking with Meowth, but Meowth's attack does 20 damage randomly to any of my opponent's Pokemon. I was hoping I could chip away at his bench while only taking 10 for Magikarp. This worked for 2 attacks, but on the third it hit the active Magikarp. Now Meowth was on a faster clock to be taken down. I smack another bench mob, and on Rod's turn take another 20 damage. I draw a Pokeball for turn, and I need to win this coin flip to have any chance at winning this game. With a lucky flip, I grab Wartortle. Evolving Squirtle, I get ready for the attack. I also use Scoop Up to deny Rod the knockout on Meowth. and with a bite I take out a second Magikarp. Rod's built Lapras goes into the active. Wartortle gets hit with a Confuse Ray, and Rod wins the flip. But Lady Luck was on my side, because I draw Switch for turn. However, I take the gamble and attack while still confused, and I hit the coin flip. I just need one more attack to take out Lapras. Wartortle got hit for another 30, and on my turn I was able to get Meowth to its retreat cost requirement. So I play Switch into Meowth, and then retreat it back into Wartortle, curing its confusion. Not only that, but I KO Lapras for another prize card. Rob puts out a third Magikarp into the active and hits Wartortle to 20 health remaining. I knock out the Magikarp, but I'm met with Kangaskhan, so Rob starts the draw wall. But after a few turns, Wartortle leaves Kangaskhan at 10 health. I decide I want to try Meowth again to hit the bench, since Wartortle will just get taken out by Dragonair if I knock out Kangaskhan. So I go for the attack, and I hit my mark. Rock continues to draw, but Meowth unfortunately hits Kangaskhan. I only have one prize card standing between me and the legendary Pokemon cards. But Dragonair becomes active and knocks out Meowth. I'm able to hit Dragonair for 40 off a bite, but Dragonair cracks back and knocks out Wartortle. All I have is a Staryu with no way to attack, and a Seal that can only hit for 10 damage. I promote Seal and leave it up to chance. But then, I draw a Water Energy for turn, the exact card that I needed to allow Staryu to attack. So I switch it to the active, hit Dragonair for 20, and knock it out. I've done it. I've beat the Grandmasters, and now I can go and claim my legendary card. Oh god damn it. So basically, Ronald has already won the legendary cards, and since both of us have earned the right to have them, we have to face off in one final battle. It's all led up to this. One final battle with Ronald, a character I've never been able to beat in battle. But it's too late to back out now. Let's start the game. I start with Staryu in the active and my Machop on bench. Winning the coin flip to go first, I hit Eevee for 20. Ronald plays Articuno and hits the coin flip to paralyze Staryu. He also double downs with Tail Whip, so there's definitely not going to be any attacking this turn. I attach an energy to Machop and send it back over to him. Ronald evolves into Jolteon and double kicks Staryu to the grave. I now only have Machop, and if I lose it, I lose the game. Luckily, Jolteon is weak to fighting, so Machop is able to low kick it for 40 damage to knock it out. Ronald starts his turn and does something backbreaking. He plays energy removal, so I have 0 ways to even attack now. Dratini hits me for 10, and I'm out of options. I draw Godin, switching out my Machop and hitting for 10. The next few turns turn into a battle of the basics, trading blows for 10. I was able to find Seal and a fighting energy during that time. With Dugong already in my hand, it was going to be my main plan for victory. I attach the fighting energy to Machop and take out Dratini with a low kick. Ronald sends Articuno into the active, but doesn't have anything to do with it. This puts me in an awkward situation because Articuno resists fighting attacks, so I have to retreat back out into Goldeen and start chipping away at Articuno 10 HP at a time. For the next 5 turns, I would hit Articuno for 10 health while Ronald would only pass powering up his bench. Finally, I was able to retreat out into Dugong and take the Articuno. Ronald places Vaporeon into the active and uses Focus Energy to double its next attack. I swing for 50 and expect to lose my Dugong from a powered up move on the following turn. But Ronald wasn't able to find the energy he needed and just uses Focus Energy again. I draw Professor Oak and end up getting Bill, a potion, and 5 energies from it. Bill got another energy and Eradicate, so I start building up Rattata just in case. I take out Vaporeon and Ronald promotes Dragonair. He plays Zapdos onto the bench, which has an ability to shoot a Pokemon for 30 damage. He hits my Goldeen and takes a prize. He then scoops up Zapdos and does it again, hitting my Meowth. To make it worse, Dragonair hits heads on both of its flips and does 60 damage to Dugong. I swing for 50, expecting that I'll lose my Dugong. Is what I would say if Ronald didn't miss both of his heads. This allows me to take out Dragonair. Ronald puts Zapdos in the active and passes. I let an Aurora Beam go and chunk Zapdos for half its health. Ronald draws and passes. And with one more Aurora Beam, this journey will be complete. This attack is for laughing at me while you left the room, for telling me that it was all luck and no skill, saying I would never get the legendary Pokemon cards. Well, guess what, Ronald? You just lost to a starter deck. And with Ronald leaving the room in tears, I go to claim my legendary cards that I have absolutely no intention of using. So yeah, that's how I beat the Pokemon trading card game with a starter deck. I fully enjoyed this challenge. It was pretty hard, but never impossible. I recommend more people to try it, maybe with the other 2 decks. And if you made it this far, why not subscribe? Either way, thanks for watching, and as always, peace.